the door that you probably came in and the door behind us here. If we do need to evacuate the building, use one of the exits and assemble outside on the playground. Remain there until the building has been confirmed as clear. In the event that we experience any unruly or intimidating behaviour, we will adjourn until things have quietened down, and we will leave and gather behind us here. And we define unruly, intimidating behaviour as criticising elected members, criticising staff, anything that's disrespectful, offensive, raised voices, and talking over elected members and or staff. And then the other thing just to add is that councillors almost certainly have read your submission. And so we invite you to focus on the key points, expand the bits you really want us to pay attention to. And this is not a time for discussion between yourselves and ourselves, but usually you will each have 10 minutes. Usually there's time for some questions, and councillors may have questions to ask. But in spite of what somebody said to me, we will be stopping fairly kind of to time, which, as I say, 10 maximum. My assistant to the right usually gives people a bit of a warning when they've reached the 6-minute mark. So if you have trouble with that. So our first submitter this afternoon is Gary Dittmer. Welcome, Gary. Please come forward to the desk, take a seat. And just to begin with, if you could tell the machine behind me who you are and if you represent any group, who that group is.
I'm Gary Dittmer. I represent the ratepayers.
Okay, welcome. And you, the next 10 minutes from the moment I push the button is yours.
Your financial year statement 22-23 stated expenditure 33.5 million. 23-24 your expenditure was stated at 33.2 million. 24-25 year was 33.2 million, which is last year, added on the 5.334 million that you deducted, and then add 2.81% more to it, and you end up with 39.7 million, which is the expenditure you wanted. Ratepayers' income only, 22-23 year, is 21.146 million. 23-24 year, you wanted 25.45 million. The ratepayers actually paid 27.624771 million, being overpaid by 2.17 million. 24-25 year, you wanted 29.6 million from the ratepayer. The ratepayer actually pays 34.146 million. 4.5 million more. CEO Janice quotes 34 million, including GST, for ratepayers for 24-25. Yes, she is technically correct for what was put out on the document, but that was including GST. That means all statements and figures always include GST from that result. Now, the real figure is 22-23 year, you took 21.146 million from the ratepayers. That's facts. That's a financial statement. 23-24 year, you took the 3.347 million, the extra that you quoted in Have Your Say 2024, and you put it over the ratepayers. You did not put it over the 34.557. Put it over that, and you end up with 9.76% increase. That means the ratepayer should be paying 23-24, 23.2 million. Take the rate increase, the payers increase, we paid 27.6 million. That's a 4.4 million more. And if you take this 33.2 expense that you quoted for this sheet for 23-24, take your 27.6 million off, take your 13.4, which the others paid the year before off, that's 7.757 million more the ratepayers paid. Now we'll go to 24-25 year. We'll take the 23-24 ratepayer income as 23.209 million, and we'll add on the 679K that you kindly took off in the have your say document, and we'll also add the line payment of 1.004, and I will add that together, multiply it by a total increase of 2.187%, which is represented in your expenditure, which I've just read out to you. That means the income for 24-25 year is 25.594 million. But the ratepayer has paid 34.146 million. That's 8.5 million more. Take your expenditure, 39.7 million for the new year. Take off the ratepayers' money, 34.146 million. Take off the 12 million, which the others are paying. And we'll take off the 1.9, which no one could explain in 24-25 every say what the 1.9 million was, but we end up with a figure that is 8.3 million more. That equates now 9.6 million and 8.9 million ratepayers have paid more in 2 years. And they're all your figures.
Do you have more to submit?
That's more than enough, because
Okay, yes.
that's not very good. And that's all your figures. And that's all justified with all your figures.
Yeah,
And you can't dispute what I've just said.
well,
You can't even argue against it.
I don't wish to do that. I'm confident that our figures are
So what I'm
audited.
saying, I'll put it this way: when you fall in a swamp, you don't try and get out of it, you call for help.
Okay, now I'll just check whether any councillor has a question. I think not. So, look, thanks very much for coming along, and we take all submissions seriously.
That should have been answered a few months ago with all the papers I put in. How come I haven't had any answers at all?
Well, this is not a question and answer session per se, but I will find out and I will get back to you.
Okay, do you want me to do a copy of these figures and give them to you? Because I've done it in the past, but I knew it was a waste of time because you all throw it in the bin. So if I print these figures off this time, will you be prepared to take them and look at them and realise the mistakes?
So look, I assure you that for the most part, if you are willing to give it to us, it would end up being scanned and circulated. So no bin will see it.
Yeah, they're the same as what you put in your submission.
Yeah.
We've got copies of it.
I actually proved it because I said to you that the income ratepayers is 25.5 million for this year coming. In here and have your same document, you stated crystal clear that last year's income is 21.5. You'll all be aware of that if you had read my submissions, because I put submissions in explaining that page. 3 times you committed this proving, you proved that last year's income was only 21.5, 21.6 and 21.7 million. You proved it in here. I don't have to prove it. You proved it to yourselves.
So I think Amy is going to come and collect.
That no one's aware of what I'm talking about right now when I put those written submissions and explaining that.
Yeah.
How much interest are you taking in this for the ratepayers? Ratepayers are struggling to pay. There's people on the verge of suicide out there and you don't give a hoot. Have you stopped the 1080 airdrop? No, because you had the highest miscarriage rate in the 90s. and back in the 70s, and doctors came out to say, you
I
are
think, Gary,
not
I
here
think,
for
Gary,
humanity.
I think that's sort of
That's
moved on.
facts.
That's moved on from what we're here to discuss today.
But I can assure you and everyone that we do take the annual report very seriously. So if you would like Amy to take it and circulate it to councillors, we're willing to do that. Do you want the original back?
Saw your figures, I could probably do it again. But I will keep it back because then I know exactly what you've got, so if you could scan it.
Okay, look, thanks very much, Gary. And our next submitter is Nicola Belsham. I see Nicola sitting there. So you're bringing Ellen with you? Okay, excellent. Well, look, if you could start telling the machine who you are, who you represent, that would be ideal.
Kia ora koutou, my name is Nicola Belsham, General Manager for Business Wairarapa, and I also welcome Alan Hogg, valued board member at Business Wairarapa. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. On behalf of Business Wairarapa, we are here to present our long-term plan submission, speaking specifically to the Enhanced Annual Plan Community Funding. Since 2021, Business Wairarapa has been included in Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy Forum, and we absolutely applaud the three councils in coming together to work collaboratively on economic development across the region. Business Wairarapa stands out as a proactive force driving that economic development through providing and delivering training, connections, and lobbying on behalf of all Wairarapa businesses. In a nutshell, we do the doing. Whilst WETS coordinates macro-level investments across the region, and our valued local associations within our membership prioritise local networks and discussions, Business Wairarapa acts as the unifying force. We connect region-wide businesses, business associations, sector groups, councils, and government agencies into a singular, powerful database that is accessible to all councils for consultation on major initiatives. Additionally, with an average 3.5 employees per business and 30% of Wairarapa's workforce engaged in business ownership or self-employment, SMEs play a pivotal role in our economy. Business Wairarapa actively provides those services that increase capability to small businesses. Plus, we extend our services across all three districts and all sectors, Wairarapa Inc. The growth in our representation through our sub-regional business groups is testament to the services that we provide. Our goal is to represent 20% of Wairarapa's enterprises by 2027, fostering growth, development, and creating opportunities through collaboration, influence, and leadership. Our initiatives align with the Wellington Regional Economic Development Plan, emphasising workforce development and resilience. Today we stand before you as elected members of your local district to propose continuation of a long-term partnership between Business Wairarapa and the three Wairarapa councils. This partnership is crucial to our mutual success in supporting local businesses and driving economic growth. To be clear, we are requesting combined financial support totaling 120,000 annually for the next 3 years, starting from July, meaning a contribution of 30,000 from South Wairarapa District Council. Whilst we acknowledge that this request has increased on the past 3 years, it is worth noting that Business Wairarapa is witnessing expansion and heightened demand for its services, yet its cost structure and capacity remain unchanged. With an MOU officially acknowledging partnership with the three councils, Business Wairarapa's commitment includes, but is not limited to, delivery of critical activities such as business training and connection Wairarapa-wide, commitment to continuing a reduced cost Wairarapa skills training program, expansion of a business helpline that offers free HR and employment legal advice to all Wairarapa businesses, coordination of the annual business summit that attracts 200 participants and features nationally recognised speakers that provide real insights and real resources to local businesses. Coordination of the annual business awards, including growing the award entries by at least 10% per annum, and celebrating the success and contributions of local businesses. Contribution to amalgamation discussion. Business Wairarapa is perfectly positioned to engage with the business community to ensure their perspectives are considered. And of course, regular reporting to councils, ensuring transparency, accountability, and alignment with mutual goals. Business Wairarapa works ground up. We do the doing, taking action to achieve high returns on investment. We are a dedicated volunteer board and one contractor that delivers to 600 businesses throughout the region. With your support and partnership, we can continue to make a tangible difference to the lives of local entrepreneurs, employers, and communities. And we look forward to working together for a prosperous future. Thank you. I'm more than happy to take questions.
Right, and I have one on my right, Councillor Plummer.
Thank you. I've read your submission, I really like it. I'm just really interested in why you don't engage with Greater Wellington as one of the 4 councils in your district.
Greater Wellington Regional Council sits on the WEDS forum, but to be honest, they're very rarely there in person. I have reached out to Greater Wellington Regional Council in the past, but again, it seems that WEDS is a forum which they prefer to engage with. They haven't engaged with us directly despite its efforts.
Because I'm conscious that 3 councils, we put money into WEDS.
Yes,
put money into Destination Wairarapa, all good money.
Yes.
But Wellington Regional Council takes a significant chunk of
Yes.
money out of our community, and maybe that's something you might want to look at.
Well, the 3
well.
councils. So my answer to that is the 3 councils contribute, I think it's a combined total of about 600,000 that goes to the Greater Wellington Regional Council. And of that, a portion goes to Wellington NZ as the Regional Economic Development Agency, and they invest that into the WEDS Forum. We work really hard within Business Wairarapa to see value for that 600,000 that goes over the hill. We put ourselves right up there and in front of Wellington NZ, as well as the 3 councils. We have good relationships with the councils and Wellington NZ, but unfortunately Greater Wellington Regional Council, in our experience since 2021, is kind of sitting aside. So WEDS appears to be the forum where Greater Wellington Regional Council funnels those funds through Wellington NZ.
Well, I do have a question, but I'll just defer to anyone else who has one. Councillor Bosley, a question?
Oh, no, I was fine.
So my question is as follows. You represent a membership organisation, and if I understand you correctly, you actually have members of less than 20% of the possible membership.
So there are 6,500 businesses across Wairarapa. Our membership currently includes just under 10% of those businesses. Those 6,500 businesses employ 42% of Wairarapa's population. We are a membership organisation, but we operate a little bit differently from other chambers of commerce in that we don't recruit members as such. We encourage our businesses to join their local or immediate association, whether that be Martinborough Business Association, Destination Wairarapa, or most recently Featherston Business Engine in the first instance, so that they're contributing to the resilience of their local community. And just for a $25 levy per annum, that business automatically becomes part of Business Wairarapa. So we put our database in the forefront. We've reduced our income or our revenue, but increased our representation so that we do have a unified voice and an honest database that represents Wairarapa. We are also working with entities like Wairarapa Wine Growers and Federated Farmers, etc., other industry groups to include them within the business umbrella.
So my question comes basically to this. you are a membership organisation, possibly a more complex one than many. And you represent businesses. Businesses are normally in business to make a profit, yet you are asking the general ratepayer to subsidise 10% of the businesses in
I wouldn't say,
the area.
yes, businesses, people are in business to make a profit. They're in businesses because they're enthusiastic and passionate about what they do. They're in business because they want to be in control of their own destiny. There is business capability made available to businesses, but it's up here. And that business capability comes in the form of the Regional Business Partners Program Network, in the form of New Zealand Business Mentors. But those contracts to deliver those services default to the metropolitan areas and central economic development agencies like Wellington NZ. We see very little trickle down here in Wairarapa, and our businesses are down here. And they have pain points, they have staffing issues. They are, I look at general managers and CEs of other chambers of commerce, and they come from the Institute of Directors and the CE of this and CE of that. But I'll wager they've never driven home crying because they can't pay their staff. I have done that, and I see that in the businesses that we represent. Business owners aren't all Fortune 500 companies that are taking advantage of the system. They're real people that want to make a difference, and they're putting their all into it, but they don't have HR departments, they don't have health and safety departments. They are in the business of doing their work. So we see our role as helping those businesses take away the pain points, supporting them so they succeed and our economic growth is continued.
I'm in no doubt that most people here would applaud that. But my question, which you haven't really answered, is why should the single superannuitant sitting somewhere else subsidise those people? I would have thought that what you were doing would have been good for their business, they would recognise it, and they would willingly pay for the service they get. And my question is, what is your response to that?
I think it's a little bit presumptuous to think that businesses, as again, are making huge amounts of money. I'll use our Wairarapa Y-Post training program as an example. To deliver that service or Wairarapa skills, soft skills training to our businesses and supervision and management, we are underwriting that to provide that between $99 and $150 for a half-day workshop. If we didn't do that, those workshops would be costing $700 and $800 for a half-day workshop, and our businesses simply can't afford to put their staff through that.
Thanks, Nicola. So we now come to our next submitter. And thank you, Alan. And
One last word, if I may.
no.
Okay.
Our next submitter is Jim Headley. Welcome, Jim, if you are here. Yes, you are. Thanks for that.
I see we've got a big gap between us and you now. So
I'm confident if you went to any other council chamber,
we must have a disease.
you would think,
Us to you.
well, Councillor
Oh, sorry.
Elams was quite unwell yesterday. So if you could start with just talking to the machine behind me, saying who you are and who you represent, if you are representing.
Jim Headley's my name. I represent myself and I represent farmers. What are rates? Frequently asked questions from the Enhanced Action Plan 24-25. The council say that rates are a tax based on the value of your land or your land and improvements. Rates paid for services required for the district and represent each ratepayer's contribution towards those services. Rates are a charge for council services, and it is council which have wrongly stated that rates be based on the value of a ratepayer's property. there are other options. Water, wastewater, refuge, recycling, collection are not based on the value of a ratepayer's property. They are paid by an AGC fixed charge. Then there is UAGCs, which can be used up to 30% of the rates, and UACs, if it has a differential, could be used for all the rates. Both are a rate on a rateable property, not the value of the ratepayer's property. Then there are differentials that could be based on population, as for Masterton and New Plymouth. It is only council that insists that rates must be based on the capital value of a ratepayer's property. Now, with the new valuation, which sees urban values go up less than rural, e.g. average Featherston residential up 8%, and the average horticultural vineyard up 42%, so the disproportionate amount paid by rural gets wider. In other words, rural subsidise urban to a greater extent. For the functions funded by the general rate, the capital value portion sees Featherston average residential only go up $2 from the 702 to 704 compared to the example in the enhanced annual plan consultation. Whereas an average horticultural vineyard has gone from 2,585 to 3,394, an increase of $809, whereas a dairy farmer has an increase of 1,055 for the same benefit and the same service as an average Featherston residential gets for the functions funded by the general rate on capital value portion. That's the difference between the old valuation and the new valuation. In the consultation for the rates review, council stated will apply capital value to the general rate because in its opinion, capital value represents a greater degree of use of council services. The horticultural vineyard and dairy farmer have a higher capital value than the Featherston residential because of the business they are in. Use no more council services than the average Featherston residential property of the functions funded by the general rate. The reserve and amenities rate should be reinstated as distance from the amenities is also a restriction. The further away from the amenities, the less people will travel to it, especially when they have their own. It is wrong that rural pay 60% plus of the capital value portion. By doing this, the council are saying rural use the amenities twice as much as urban. That's madness. Then come the rest of the functions funded by the general rate. Those are functions that are mostly what the community as a whole benefit equally from. In the rates review consultation, it stated, community as a whole means residents and ratepayers. That's people. It is appropriate to firstly split the population into urban and rural or other categories, which would see urban pay about 66% and rural pay about 34%. Then go to UAC or capital value. It should be stated at this point, if it stays as council proposes, the capital value with no differential, then farmers will pay 40% of the capital value portion of the general rate, but only have 10 to 15% of the population, and rural would pay 46% of the UAGC, with only 34% of the population. Council figures show farmers hold about 35% of capital value under the old valuation. Now, with the new valuations, with farmer values significantly higher than urban, I predict that farmers will likely be as much as 40% of the capital value of the district, and rural capital value could be closer to 70% of the district, just because farmers have a large land area for the business they are in, which gives them a large capital value, which does not translate to a corresponding amount of council services of the general rate funded functions. How can it be fair and equitable for a minority of the community, 10 to 15% farmers, pay 40% of the capital value portion of the general rate when the benefits are to the community equally? When it comes to UAGC, council should use the full 30% allowed. Instead, council have reduced the 30% to 21%. Then on top of that, reduce the 21% effectively to 9% by using refuge and recycling collection in the calculation, which does not change anything, as it is already funded by a fixed charge for those that have the service. In the rates review consultation, it stated that benefits of almost all council services and activities accrue to all properties equally. Therefore, council consider all properties should contribute a relative similar level regardless of the value of their property. An average residential property, resident ratepayer pays $704, and an average horticultural vineyard pays $3,394, and a dairy farm pays $5,896 of the capital value portion of the general rate. Is nowhere near close to being a similar contribution to the functions funded by the general rate as council state. Why has council not fulfilled those words, but have instead done the opposite, which sees farmers pay 40% of the capital value portion of the general rate and only have 10 to 15% of the population? One councillor said that they can't send urban broke and that farmers can increase their production. Council don't care if they send farmers broke or sell up and the new owner put the land into pine trees or cut it up for lifestyle lots and increase production at what price? We must deal with the weather, price, exchange rate and government regulations. A farmer's income is reliant on prices from world markets, as 95% of what farmers produce is exported all over the world. Farmers get what is left after farming, processing and transport expenses are paid. Farmers can do all the work and end up with a loss. Farmers do not have the luxury of a minimum wage. Urban need to be exposed to the actual cost of owning a home, and there is nothing stopping them from getting another job to pay the rates. I also bring up that it was stated about cycle tracks. Cycle tracks, as far as I can see, are funded under the land transport part on the general rate. So farmers are paying 40% of cycle tracks. You know, they're no good to farmers. We can't put out a stock along them or anything like that. So, you know, it's ludicrous that we spend that much on cycle tracks for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now, we've still got some time for a couple of quick questions. Councillor Woodcock.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for coming along, Jim. I must have to commend you going through all these submissions, the amount of people that are supporting your submission. You probably had more support out there than most of the people sitting at this table.
You did right.
I actually agree with your theories and the way it was rated, and I would actually like council, it's probably too late this year, but in the future to actually start looking more seriously into this way of rating. Thanks very much for coming.
I'll comment support. I was surprised at the drop-in meetings or whatever you like to call them, when I raised the point that a business person is paying this, a farmer's paying this amount for the same function, and they said they totally agreed. It's wrong.
Any other quick question? Hearing none. Well, look, thanks very much, Jim, and I'll just support Councillor Woodcock. We always appreciate your contributions.
If don't screw it up and chuck it in the rubbish bin, please do something about it.
All submissions are filed, taken seriously. We'll see too many rubbish bins load.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. And that now brings us to Rosie Rogers. Right, so thank you very much. And again, if you could just speak to the machine behind, say who you are, who you represent, and then your 10 minutes will start.
Sure, I'm Rosie Rogers. I own the White Swan Hotel in Greytown, and this is Lisa Portis, who is one of the owners of Palliser Ranch. So I'm speaking today on behalf of a number of tourism businesses. You would have seen the letter, open letter to councils, which we had in the Times Age a few weeks ago. So Lisa and I are here on behalf of Transit Group, Star Safari, Pukaha Mount Bruce, Palliser Ridge, obviously, Big Sky Wines, Marama Hotel, Tim's also here, and Greytown Honey, and of course the White Swan Hotel. And really, our message is simple. We want to thank you. Thank you for your support of Destination Wairarapa, and to outline why it's really important that this support continues. So I've just returned from Trends, which is the biggest tourism selling event on the New Zealand tourism calendar. It was located in Wellington, and Trends happens every year where international buyers come in, and we as tourism operators have the opportunity to sell our product and promote our product to offshore buyers. Destination Wairarapa were there promoting the region, and it is council money that helps to pay for them to be able to do activity like that. And off the back of that, I was actually, I should say, able to witness the work of Destination Wairarapa while we were there. They just the networks that they hold and the expert kind of connections that they have, it was really noticeable. But off the back of that, they were able to secure 20 buyers that they brought into the region to do a familial itinerary through the Marama region. They spent the night there. They did Greytown Honey. They saw a few of the winery cellar doors. Then they went up through Star Safari in Harderton and on through to Pukaha Mount Bruce, Tui Brewery, and on into Hawke's Bay. And that is a really critical tourism link for our region and connecting people from Wellington through Hawke's Bay and making sure that they are allowing time to spend their good money in our region. And so those buyers will go back offshore and promote our region to a hugely vast network of buyers from all over the world who are going to send tourists to our region to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars over the coming years. And so over the past year, visitor spend in South Wairarapa has increased by a whopping 33.8% to 53.8 million. That's 13 million since pre-COVID. So some of that is due to specific events in our region, like the Festival of Christmas, Martinborough Fair, Booktown, Toast Martinborough, the obvious ones. But the majority of it is incidental spend, indirect from our tourists exploring our region. So they spend their money in our small towns. It's not just the beekeeper experience or the lavender farm or the olive grove or the winery or my hotel. It is our bookshelves, supermarkets and our dairies and our petrol stations, our pharmacies, retail stores, cafes and restaurants. So I like to think of this money as foreign currency. It's money from people outside of our region coming in and spending their foreign currency in our economy. That money then gets to circulate amongst all of us for all of our benefit. So without the boost from those visitors, many of our small local businesses would struggle to survive. Not just the tourism businesses, but our locals would miss out on having the shops, the gas stations and the dairies that support our small towns. Destination Wairarapa, where do they fit in? They are the glue which hold the regional tourism, our region's tourism industry together. A lot of the work they do goes largely unseen and is widely not understood. So it's no coincidence that just about every time you pick up a lifestyle magazine or jump on an Air New Zealand flight, you see a glowing article about the Wairarapa. I know that Tim sent you all a long list of articles about this region, and particularly Martinborough, and that is the work of Destination Wairarapa. And you will all know that earlier this month they organised for the popular Australian breakfast and current affairs show, the Today Show, to broadcast live from the Martinborough Square. That equated to an estimated advertising value of nearly $900,000. And the Dark Sky Reserve, another huge opportunity that the region is only just starting to realise. So Destination Wairarapa will play a vital role in helping the region realise the economic benefits of that in the coming years. And they do that through promoting it through their domestic and international tourism network. Agritourism is another sector which is only just in its infancy and has huge potential. And these are opportunities that would be lost without the good work of Destination Wairarapa. So once again, thank you for the support you've given to our industry through contributing to Destination Wairarapa. Tourism is New Zealand's second largest industry, and regional tourism in New Zealand is reliant upon partnerships with local government. The 3-year funding model is essential in providing certainty and continuity, which is essential for Destination Wairarapa and our businesses to be able to plan effectively. So as a South Wairarapa ratepayer, I'm asking you to continue your support, which is so vital for this district and the region as a whole. I welcome any questions.
Okay, so do we have any questions, Councillor? No? Yes, we do.
Sorry, thank you for a fantastic presentation, and I think it's probably testament to the work that Destination Wairarapa are doing that they've had so many presentations today. I just in the interest, I guess, of fairness in my mind, we just recently had a membership organisation present to us, and they were asked why is it that a membership organisation should also be council funded. So just interested in your opinion on that. So obviously a membership organisation is taking membership fees, and we're also looking to look to continue funding them. Can you just talk to us about what you see in the terms of the benefit of both?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really important question. And from where I sit, so in the business, it is a membership organisation, but businesses do pay for those benefits. We, for our business, pay close to $2,000 for those benefits annually. I just want to come back to this point around the foreign currency idea. These are people coming in to our region and spending their money for the benefit of everybody. That grows our whole economy, therefore every taxpayer benefits. Therefore, it's the reason that the model sits across the whole country as local government partly funded, and that membership model is also runs across the country, is because it does benefit everybody.
That's cool. Thank you very much.
Councillor Macaulay.
Yes, well, it's one I'd just like to congratulate you on the wonderful job you're doing, making a wonderful destination for people to go to, whether they're foreigners or locals. It's wonderful. But and I'm probably slightly supporting you on your argument actually, but yeah, I think that I used to pay membership to Destination Wairarapa, and I think a lot of the issue here is the distribution of businesses. So many of them are so small that they are struggling, but those businesses grow, and so I think it is a benefit, as you're saying, to the whole of the area to help sustain those businesses, especially through the really growing pains and the actually getting going and things like that. So, helping support your submission. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think to that point, individually, we're all small business owners, and we just don't have the resource or expertise to be able to do what Destination Wairarapa do. I mean, $900,000 in media value just from one connection that they have. There's no way we could compete with that. And without Destination Wairarapa being that glue for us as an industry, we just wouldn't get any cut through. The competition is fierce. We're up against every other region in the country, and then up against the world. So, we just couldn't do it without them.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Rosie and Lisa. I'd just like to say, thanks for sticking up for Destination Wairarapa. I've been absolutely stunned how many people have submitted just for them. And it sort of made my whole mindset change a little bit. So, very good. Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear. I think you'll all be well aware that our biggest concern is the Masterton funding model. And so it's really our focus is to help you all understand the importance of Destination Wairarapa so that you can all help us to help Masterton us. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so we come now to the final part almost. Marguerite here. Okay. One of you, Karen. Excellent. Well, this is the finals matter. So please come forward and
That's not a tourism council.
That a yes? So we'll just wait for Amy to give us the all clear. And then what I'd be grateful if you could do would be just to speak clearly to the machine and say who you are and who you represent. And then you have 10 minutes, and we would invite you not to use it all because usually some people have questions. But please understand that we have read your submission, and we suggest therefore you focus on what do you really want us to internalise. So it's all good, is it? Okay.
Kia ora koutou, ko Christina Bromley ko Poingoa. I'm the team leader for Enviro Schools Te Upoko o Te Ika a Maui, and we've got Karen Burgess here with me today too, who's been involved in Enviro Schools network for longer than me and is right up the base too, so provide a bit more knowledge about the program if we need to. Thanks for taking the time to read the submission, and thanks for having us here today. We have been really lucky at Enviro Schools in the last long time to have Jill Stewart as our community facilitator, who's works with schools and centres across the whole Wairarapa. And as a result of your work, there's really great strong connections between schools, mana whenua, other environmental education providers and community groups. If we could just flip to the next slide, we've got some numbers here of what that was in the submission as well. The last 3 years we've had a MOU with the 3 Wairarapa councils, and it's meant that we've been able to take a more coordinated approach. And you can see the numbers of schools that are participating in Wairarapa, and we've got the smaller numbers there for the different councils. Some of the schools that have been involved have been able to sort of deepen their sustainability practice because they've been involved with Enviro Schools for quite a long time. They're now at the point where they're sharing their knowledge and experiences and ideas with other schools as well. In the next few minutes, we'll just talk about some of the key highlights of the Enviro Schools program, and wanted to demonstrate how it aligns with the work that you do in South Wairarapa, and showing the value of the work that we do for young people across the region. And in the process, we're asking that you sort of endorse the work that we do as we start to go through a process with council staff on renewing our MOU with the 3 councils. So the next page just is a very broad overview of the work that we do at Enviro Schools. So a key aspect of Enviro Schools is providing guidance and support for kaiako and akongas, that's the teachers and students, to learn in, about and take action for the environment. Today more than ever, I think having empowered students and sustainable communities are really crucial. So Enviro Schools helps to deliver in the 3 boxes on the right hand side, working with students, working with teachers, and taking that whole school approach. And we'll move on to the next slide and just talk a little bit about each of them. So this is an example of that was in the submission too, of how we help young people to learn and take action together in the environment. This was a photo of this eco building workshop that was held last term, where students looked at the way nature builds things and then learned techniques that they could use themselves, and then created their own designs and did a whole lot of learning in the process. And this was done outside, and a lot of the work that we do with students is actually about taking them outside and helping them engage with nature. Also recently, Jill worked with in South Wairarapa doing some tracking workshops. She went to Featherston School, and they really and there was an example in the submission on the Boggy Pond and Waideor wetlands as well. She's also planning something for the Moana during Conservation Week later in 2 or 3. So there's always lots going on for students. This slide here about kaiako, which is the teachers, is we often group teachers together to help build up their expertise and connection and knowledge. And again, actually taking them outside and doing learning outside for them is a really good reminder for teachers how much learning they can do with their children by taking the students outside afterwards. So this photo here is about showing an ECE, so kindies and early childhood centres having a cluster meeting. So again, across the 3 different council areas, there's about 15 key people who are gathering together and doing lots of learning and applying back over 2 or 3 terms. Martinborough kindies are really involved in Borough Schools involved in this. And then the next slide shows, it just talks about the whole school approach, and in the submission too, we had we gave the example of Douglas Park School, which is the next slide on. And even though Douglas Park School is in Masterton, they've been on this journey for 20 years and they're real exemplars of some really great practice. So they can share a lot through the good things that have happened and the things that they've tried and may not have happened quite so well, but it's by bringing their students together and their teachers together with other teachers in the region that we get lots of learning and connection. The photo on the left is a really interesting one too. So to the point about taking people outside, it doesn't have to be into an amazing space or even off the school grounds. This is a creek that was previously out of bounds and piped, and so they've daylighted it, done planting around it, and now the children come and see the eels that are driving there. So they've got a real sense of kaitiaki, and it's really great in that they can start to understanding these spaces and their places of better. And that's an example of a kaupapa immersion approach that we use. So if 2 or 3 schools a year will work really intensively with Jill and the facilitators to really focus on, have a real focus on environmental and sustainability issues, and sanctuaries is the school that she's working with this year. So next slide here, I mean it's pretty, as I've shown, Enviroschools really helps build resilience and create strong connections between young people and their whānau and community groups and local spaces. And so looking through the strategic plan, there's some things that apply a whole lot more than others. We can give examples of how it ticks lots of the boxes, but we can also show how the deeper connection and understanding fills in a whole lot of gaps as well. And I think that sort of helps with the united and focused community and group of young people coming through. Just on the next slide, we just wanted to quickly talk about the 3-year Wairarapa wide MOU that we've had. So if we could just flip slides. And the only thing I really wanted to say here is it's been amazing having this MOU with the 3 councils. It's really enabled us to create stronger relationships with schools. We've been able to say over a 3-year period, a plan, a better program. It's given a whole lot more security for lots of people involved, and has meant that Jill's been able to really work on the connections between the schools and the communities across the catchments. And the discussions that we're having with 3 councils in doing this MOU, we're also talking about how we might bring in some education around zero waste. So that's on the next slide. And just sort of just wanted to talk about how this is a really obvious fit. We've got an Enviroschools facilitator who's got contacts with all the schools and early childhood centres already as part of the Wellington Region Waste Management and Minimisation Plan. There's a focus on environmental education. So there's modules that are available to be delivered, but sometimes the councils aren't able to deliver them because there's so many other things that councils have to do. So actually, if that was to be put into the contract with Enviroschools, we've got people that have got the relationships with schools. They can start by delivering the zero waste education module, and then also work with the school on the broader Enviroschools program. So that's where we're going. That's a little bit of a once over quickly, example of our work program and where we're planning on going, and happy to take any questions now.
Well, thank you for that. We've got time for a couple of quick ones. Maybe just one, just to set the scene. The 3-year MOU that you referred to, when does that come to an end, please?
Comes to the end at the end of June this year, so we're just coming up to the end of the session.
Okay, and you would seek to renew it and possibly grow it? Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Ross.
Thanks for coming along and presenting today. I've been involved with Enviro Schools, I think, since I was first elected, and I think Esther was one that presented to us initially. I'm just wondering about how many of the participating schools in those days are still actively involved in the Enviro Schools program at the moment. The original ones, are they still there, or have they dropped away, or is there?
Yeah, so the original ones are still there. Like sometimes, like what tends to happen is that schools and centres, they have times where they're really focusing on the Enviro Schools program, and other times where they're just kind of letting things go along.
Yeah.
But they're all still involved.
Okay, excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, which is really
That's the track record. Yeah. Thank you.
That's the, when I went to they had a celebration at Douglas Park at the end of last year, and they were one of the really early Enviro Schools at the time, and it's just become so much part of what they do that pretty much you can draw a line to every initiative of theirs because it's all
links in. Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll take a last question from the person who asked the first.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. Thanks for your presentation. You've said that the MOU is a 3-year term. And what is there a dollar value that councils have been providing? And what would the dollar value you be looking for from South Wye going forward?
Yeah, so in the past MOU, so we've split the Wairarapa facilitator funds according to ratepayer base. So last year it was about 16,000 for South Wairarapa, about 12.5 for Carterton and 33 for Masterton. And so this year we're looking at something similar with an increase for CPI, and then also potentially building in some waste work. So
thanks for that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks.
Right.
Artwork there, presumably the children did that with the
the
kiwis,
at Douglas Park.
with the kiwis and the stars and.
Yes.
Yeah, gorgeous, good to enjoy it.
Right, so we come to item 5 on the agenda, and the item 5 is reports from the chief executive and staff, and we have that in front of us. That headed up Advanced Annual Plan 24-25 hearings. I will move that we receive the report. Do I have a seconder? I do, thank you, Melissa. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'll hand over to you, Janice, and whoever you have delegated.
I will hand over to Nikki because she report together.
Excuse me, can we just bring the table forward now that we're out of
Now we've got the.
the danger zone?
I don't think.
Firstly, I would just like to extend my sincere thanks to all elected members and councillors here who have provided us with some amazing support over the consultation process. We did a number of drop-ins that involved weekends and evening works, and I just want to thank you all for supporting us with those. And especially to a number of councillors who attended quite a few of those to get a feel across the district of some of the thoughts of our communities. So attached is our hearings paper with our hearing submissions attached. We will have a deliberations paper for you next week as part of the deliberations process, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes, thank you.
No real questions, but just to say thank you for the work that you've done. It's been very good. And then also just to flag up the huge amount of work that Melissa has put in fronting all of this. Had a number of people reflect that to me that it's been very good to have a base to the campaign, and you've done us proud. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, but thank you too, because, you know, staff have just done a fantastic job on this, and it was just such a better experience than previous year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. Thanks for pulling everything together, Nikki. Just wondering, in preparation for next week, you said you're going to be presenting with us with another report?
Yep.
Will that report have a breakdown as to numbers of people who have and the way they have and how they've answered the questions and the options and those three points?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have the totals, percentages and some graphs in regards to that. We'll also have some medical analysis in regards to the drop-in sessions and all of the submissions as well.
I get the feeling at that some of the people who were submitting, and sometimes with a bit of passion, may not have fully understood everything we were consulting on. Will there be some maybe reflection on that? I'm thinking, is it SUIPs? I'm thinking targeted rates, etc.
Things are still in progress and being worked on, so we can.
Just to give you confidence, I'm meeting with Nikki and Charlie on Friday morning to go through the issues that I've noted today. The six is one, and economic development rate is another one that we need to close out, as well as the potential impact of the change on the rise. That's the three key takeaways I've had from today.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one other, I suppose, point I'd just like to raise. I think it's come through from some members of the community that the rating estimator on our website didn't come out until just a few days before the submissions closed. And I was just wondering if, you know, thinking ahead to next year as to whether, and I know there's probably, you know, some things are out of our control, i.e. The QV valuations didn't come out until halfway through our consultation period. But I'm just wondering as to whether, you know, looking forward as to whether our rating estimator in relation to the annual plan or the LTP come out at an earlier date, if at all possible.
Through the chair, absolutely. QV was the staller for us this year. Because once we got the final values, we had to then update all the data. So it just slowed the machine down and they kept pushing the data out. You know, we were a number of weeks past the deadline that we thought we would be. That won't happen for the LTP, so we should be able to stand it up a lot quicker.
Same 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just a big thing because it would cause more concern using old rating values.
Yeah.
And it's big chaos.
And it's unfortunate that we can't actually post it on the rating information database because we haven't got Greater Wellington's updated values, and we don't want to put our values up with an out-of-date GW number because that gives you a false read as well.
I felt that the estimator had come out very soon after I got my QV note anyway. So yes, and as it turned out, it wouldn't have made much sense to have done anything. Any other comments there? Okay, so we've got three recommendations. One, which we just need to check, note that 131 submissions were received. Is that still accurate? Okay. Of the received submissions, 23 are confirmed to be heard.
18.
8, or maybe we'll change it to 18 were heard. Thank you. And note that deliberations are scheduled for 22 May 2024. And I know this can be a contentious thing to do, but I invite somebody to move all three at once. Councillor Plymouth, Councillor Elam second. Is there any discussion on any of those things? There being none, then I shall put it. All in, I put the three recommendations, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll just, we come to our karakia whakawhātonga. I'm just going to check with Nerida whether she wished to. You would.
Right, so I thought, usually, karakia, river opens, should also close the karakia, it's just the tea coming around it. But also, just to remind us that the closing of karakia whakawhātonga is to bring all that energy and any feelings you've had today, the emotions you've had today, to wrap it up in kaupapa. So that when you leave here today, you go back to the people, back to the whānau, and you are motu tau. So just, yes, that's it. So, karakia whakawhātonga, rotu mahi mātou, o tēnei wā, ngā kitea, mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ai o ki te aorangi. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
I would imagine you would.
Something.
The whole day, yeah.
That's something, wasn't it?
It was like,